Alright, on today's video we're going to be doing some maintenance on our 2008 Civic. So 1.8 should be the same from 06 to 11, and probably pretty similar from 12 up around those years with the 9th gen with the r18 as well. But it's going specifically for the 8th generation, the 06 to 11 1.8 with the r18. So what we're going to be doing today is, this car's 14 years old now, 15 years old now, so, and it's got around 200,000 miles on it. So there's a lot of things I like to do mileage wise and age wise as far as maintenance on a vehicle to ensure you don't have issues. One of the things is when I got to 100,000, I changed radiator hoses. I actually upgraded to silicone, so we're not going to be messing with those today because they should be good. Done radiator hoses, thermostat, radiator cap, serpentine belt, and flushed the coolant out. In addition to that, I do a drain and fill on the transmission every 30,000. Do spark plugs every 100,000 with factory NGKs or Densos, whatever they are. I don't even remember. Actually, I just changed the spark plugs a few days ago. So today, what we're going to be focusing on is replacing all the belts. Well, it ain't but one belt. All the hoses on the car and the serpentine belt, and doing a full service on the transmission as well as the coolant system. Now I'm getting a little too deep into it, but the older Civics with timing belts that were serviceable, whenever I would do a timing belt service at 100,000, I would go ahead and change the water pump as well. Being this car is timing chain and is not subject to the same 100,000 mile service interval on that, I went ahead at 150,000 miles. I changed the water pump with an OEM Honda one as well, just to avoid any failure in the future. On top of that, I've done at 150,000, I had to do a valve cover gasket. Also done a valve adjust as well, so we're good with that. So the only thing left to do right now, we're at 200,000. I want to change every belt. Well, again, it's not for one belt. I want to change every hose on the car that any fluid touches. That way we don't, it should be good for a few more years from 1,000 miles, but I want to change it before it's a problem. So I'm going to be changing everything that coolant and automatic transmission fluid touches. If you've got a manual, then you can skip the automatic transmission stuff, okay? But the coolant stuff will still be the same. All right, like I said, we've got upgraded silicone radiator hoses, so we're not gonna mess with that. This is what we got right here. This is a lot of stuff. I've got every hose, except for the radiator hoses, that either automatic transmission fluid or coolant touches. Also have the inline automatic transmission fluid filter. We have serpentine belt right there. We have our, where is it? Thermostat and seal. And I want to change the radiator cap. It's actually cheaper to buy this whole assembly with the cap and the inlet neck. Cheaper than it is just to buy just the cap. So that's where we're at. We've got all new, we've got all fluid. I think, if I remember, 1 gallon is enough, I think, to service the system, but I bought 2 just to be sure, but we'll find out. I think for a drain and fill, usually 3 quarts of transmission fluid usually does it, if I remember correctly. I bought extra since we are doing, the filter and changing all the lines and stuff. Okay, it's going to lose a little bit more fluid. All right, so it's really late tonight. I'm getting started on it, so it's probably going to have to finish it up in the morning. So I think what I'm going to start on right now is the transmission side. So let's look real quick. Okay, so right off, this piece here is aluminum block that bolts to the front of the transmission here. That's a oil cooler for the transmission, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got several lines going into that assembly. Some of them are going to be transmission fluid lines, some of them are going to be coolant lines. So like I said, we're going to start on the transmission side. I changed that filter a long while back. I feel like it kind of goes around the back side of the block, if I'm not mistaken. So first thing we're going to do is, I like to make my job easier. Sometimes I found the hard way that sometimes it's easier to take a few extra minutes, take some stuff off, get it out of your way, and try to work around things. And that way you guys get a better view. So first thing I'm going to do is probably pull the battery out. That'll take literally about 2 minutes. And pull the air cleaner assembly out. All right, that should free up enough space to get to do what we need to do. So we'll go ahead and get that out of the way. I'm not going to show you that part. I mean, it's 2 bolts and the cables holding the battery in. Box hitting nothing but a couple bolts. Pull the you know, pop the lid off, undo your harness for your mass airflow sensor, and take out, oh, it might slide out of here. Anyway, pop the top lid off, filter out, bottom of the box, bada bing, bada boom. So I'm not going to bore you with that. So I'll get that off, and then I'll bring you back in. Bear with me with the lighting situation here. So here's some heater hoses. I got these out of the way just so you can see. So right back here below this bracket, this line, this soft line going here, it's a transmission line. Our filter is here. There's a soft line behind it. I think it's actually the same one, goes into a metal line, so we're going to have to change that. And we're going to have to change the ones here. I think it's probably going to be this one and this one. So these other two are coolant lines. That's a coolant line. This one's a coolant line. This one's a coolant line. These dark black ones are going to be the transmission line. So I think we got to change these two, and then the one going in the filter, one going out of the filter, and I think that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are the only four we've got to change. So I'm going to change. We're going to go ahead and change those hoses and that filter, and get the transmission drain, and get the new fluid in it. So go ahead and get to it again. The lighting situation here is not ideal, but I'm going to do the best I can so that you can see it. All right. First, I'm going to put a drain pan under the car just to catch whatever's going to come out. Hopefully, you'll be able to get some kind of idea what I'm doing. It's really hard to get a good view here with all the stuff in the way, but I mean, essentially, these hoses I've got spring clamps on them. Pull them off, put the new ones on. So I'm gonna go ahead with this top one here. Okay, got the clamps off. Pull the hose. Sometimes these hoses will be stuck to the pipe, so sometimes take some pliers and just lightly kind of lightly give it a turn. That's how they'll kind of break it. Yeah, like that. Kind of break it loose from where it was sticking. A lot of times I'll give it kind of a push. Once you get it break loose, just kind of push it off. A flathead or a pry bar or something. Like so. Well, interestingly enough, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but it's what we got, and it looks like it's going to work, so I'm going to use it. But I figured these look like, you know, preformed hoses, and they probably are. But this is what I got. I don't know if this is right or not, but it looks like it's going to work, so we're just going to run it. But, you know, these are not preformed hoses, but seem to appear to be the right length, so, you know, we're going to stick them on there, and if they go, they go. If not, we'll go from there. But I'll go ahead and get our clamp switched over and get them stuck back on the car. And, yeah. Okay, so we got those hoses in. Like I said, it was this one, and this one. So nothing to it. You know, loosen the clamps, pull them out, put the new ones in. So I was kind of concerned about them being just straight hoses. But since these have been off for a little while, it looks like they're just kind of straightening out. So apparently that's just what they are. They wasn't preformed, they were just straight ones. But I was seemed kind of weird. But anyway, got those out. So the next thing is going to be, like I said earlier, it's going to be behind the right here. This line goes into, if you can see that filter back there, it's a hard filter. If you can see it. Anyway, so we got to change that filter, change this hose, and the hose on the other side of the filter. The bad thing is the one on the other side, you can't even see it. So I'm probably just going to have to do all that by feel. So pop this one off first. Let's give the line a little twist here to break it loose. Okay. Let's see if I can get on and twist it a little bit. Yep. It pulled right out. Okay. So there's one 10mm. Maybe you can see it from here, probably not. Right where my finger is one 10mm bolt that's holding that filter on to that bracket. I'm gonna pull that 10mm out. That way I'll be able to move the filter around. Then hopefully I can get around to the, I'm gonna have to do it all by feel. Hopefully I can see wherever that line is and where it goes into, and be able to get back there, undo that clamp, and I'll pull the line off attached to the filter. So I got the filter assembly off and the hose that went down to the hard pipe on the back side. It's kind of annoying to get off just because of how the clamps turn around backwards. I had to kind of turn to a contortionist to get my hand back there. But anyway, this is what it's supposed to be, the replacement hoses. Again, these aren't preformed, but they're actually the same for both of these. So we'll get this kind of assembled off the card, and we'll put it on and then get it hooked up. If you can see right there, new filter installed on with the new hose on both sides of it. All right, drain the fluid. There's a bolt right here, and it's a square head. So you just use your 3/8 ratchet. Use that to break it loose. It's going to be around 3/4 or so. Give or take a little. What you're going to lose. That's probably a little tighter than it should have been, but right. And these are magnetized, so always kind of check them and the end of them and wipe them clean. I always like to look and see how much metal deposits we have on there. You're gonna have some, but you know, if you've got a lot on there, then it's probably indicating some type of problem, or that it hasn't been serviced recently or ever. You see right here, there's a cutout right beside where this arrow is, and you can see right here is the pet cup. So all you do is just loosen that up and have a pan ready to catch all the coolant. Okay, so while our coolant is draining, we're gonna go ahead and replace our fill cap and neck assembly, which is here, and the hose that goes to the radiator should be this one. Looks like that one. Yep. All right. There's nothing to that but two 10mm, which are one's actually loose, and a clamp here holding this hose to the radiator assembly. Okay. Okay. So this is a little swollen. So got to change that. Anytime with coolant and radiator hose, anytime you can tell if they're kind of getting swollen or soft, better go ahead and change them before you have problems. Okay. Since we're already in this area, let's go ahead and installing these hoses for the transmission cooler. So we got one that goes from here down to that housing that we were dealing with earlier, and another one here that goes down to that housing. So go ahead and start pulling those off, and it's going to be this, that pretty much the same concept as the ones earlier. You know, pull the clamps and slide the hoses off. So let's get to it. All right, day 2. Let's look and see what we've done so far and get caught up, and then we'll get right back into it. So yeah, we got so we've got our lines, our transmission lines that go down to the cooler, the inlet and outlet. Got the coolant lines that go down to the cooler, inlet and outlet. Got our transmission filter and both rubber lines coming in and out of that. We got the transmission drain, we got the coolant drain. Oh, also we got the our inlet, coolant inlet and cap installed along with that hose. So what we're going to do right now is probably go ahead and I think we'll do the heater hoses. We're going to do the heater hoses and the thermostat, and then we should be pretty well done, other than the couple lines that I'll show you. These lines that go to there's a couple coolant lines that go here, I think, to the throttle body, and this one goes to like the thermostat housing, I think somewhere around that area. Anyway, there's 2 rubber lines that go there, so we'll replace those once we get this back on. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and maybe I'll go ahead and pull this thermostat housing off and get that changed out real quick. That out the way. Okay, got that out. So when you reinstall it, you see you got this deal here that always goes up. Also on your gasket, you'll notice a couple notches, and these will index near housing, and you won't be able to see it here, but once you put yours in, you'll definitely be able to see it. There's dimples for that for both of these notches. Got a thermostat put back on, a bracket put back on. So next what I'm going to do is going to work on the last few hoses. It's going to be this hose here. It just goes from right here on the throttle body to right here. Okay, same thing. Couple clamps, pull it off, replace it. Same with these heater hoses. One here and one here, and they both go right back. Let's see, try and get some light. See, right back there on the firewall where they go. Okay, and it runs into the heater core box. And we'll get those changed out, and then the last few will be, once we get the air cleaner back in, we'll put those in. So yeah, easy squeezy. Just again, due to space constraints, I'm not really going to show you. It's the same thing. Pull them out, put the new ones in. So I'll go ahead and switch them out real quick, and then turn it back on when we start our reassembly. So old hoses. Here's the new ones. So we got one there. And this one. So we're just going to switch our clamps over and throw these back on the car and reverse what we just did. Then we'll move on to the next step. So I went ahead and buttoned up the heater hose install. Wasn't too much to see, so I went ahead and just buttoned it up off camera. And like I said, the last few things I had to do was place this line and the one on the receiving side. Went ahead and put the air box back in. Just got to throw the battery in. So the next thing I'm going to do, the last thing I'm going to do other than flush our coolant and top off transmission fluid and everything, is change our serpentine belt. As you can see, I got a wrench here on, that's the tensioner, and you just apply pressure to that, you'll be able to pull the belt off. So I'll show you real quick. This is a lot easier with like a long handle ratchet, but I'm just using what I got close by, which is some wrenches. Put pressure on that until now you're able to get the belt off. Release the tension back. And that's it. Pull the belt off, put your new one on. Get everything lined up, routed. I'd put it, you know, right here, the alternator. Push that back, slap it on the alternator. It'll be the easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that changed out real quick. Okay, we got our new belt on. Anyway, so yeah, it's done. Ain't nothing to do but top off the fluid, start a battery in, and we should be good to go. You know, I like to, as far as transmission fluid goes, I like to fill it up to, you know, the fill mark on the stick. Crank the car up, run it through the gears, throw it back in park, cut it off, come back and check it. And the same thing, you know, let the heat cycle, recheck it again later. Coolant, I'll probably just run water through this a few times to get all the old coolant out. And then whenever I put my new coolant in, you know, I'll drain all the water out, put my new coolant in. I top it off, I crank the car up, let it run a while, you know, let the level drop, top it off, put the cap on, let the car get up to heat, to temp, and then recheck it, drive around a little bit, recheck it again, and then should be good to go. But yeah, hopefully this helped you out a little bit. I know the camera angles on some of this was less than great, but it's tight constraints, not good lighting in here. It's really hard to, you know, really get some good angles on the stuff. But I mean, essentially, it's at least the main thing I was trying to do is show you where all the stuff's located at. And I mean, other than that, it's really nothing but just loosening clamps, pulling hoses off, putting new ones on, and so forth. But if this helped you out, let me know. And if you got any questions on it, let me know as well. And I'm gonna put the parts list of everything I bought for this in the description. So if everybody always asks about parts number. So anyway, I think I've got, I don't even remember how much I spent in this. I think I spent, it was I really don't remember. I think it might have been around $2 something, a little over $2, maybe a little over $2 for the belts and hoses. Then I had like $130 just in fluids. But yeah, it was, like I said, I bought a little extra so you can get away with a little less. But anyway, all right, yeah, we'll see you on the next one.